Four men entered Otter Springs Cave in 1990 on a dive. They recently obtained their open water diving certification. They disregarded their diving instructor's advice to stay out of the cave, which led to a terrible catastrophe. Consider joining our channel for more thrilling tales of cave diving. West of Trenton, along the Suwannee River, Florida, is where Otter Springs, a spring of second size, is situated. Otter Springs produces over 10 million gallons of sparkling, clear water each day. It's around 23 degrees Celsius outside. Otter Springs' expansive, crystal-clear pool and stream empty into the Suwannee River. Ancient trees and soaring cypress surround the spring. Otter Springs Park and Campground, which is situated on 636 acres of land, offers a variety of outdoor activities. These activities range widely and include hiking, camping, fishing, and bird viewing. When you are unwinding indoors or outside, the poolside table and the swim laps at the sheltered pavilion provide a soothing experience. If you're looking for the ideal location to camp and explore Florida's undeveloped shore, look no further. Otter Springs is a one-in-a-million occurrence. Little Otter Springs, a spring along the Suwannee River, is reached naturally by a route from the main spring and cabin locations. On May 19, 1990, a gorgeous afternoon, we had just had lunch at a campground in Gainesville, Florida. Ron and Alan Welch, who were brothers, Chris Gallup and Kenneth Ives, together with Jackie Galvin's pupils, left for a picnic at a campground in Gainesville, Florida. Lunch was enjoyed by all five of them at the campground. A dive to the spring that was smack dab in the middle of the campground had been recommended. Their diving teacher, Jackie, was an accomplished diver. Due to his approximately 52 dives, Ron was also an experienced diver. Conversely, Alan, Chris, and Kenneth had under 7 dives under their belts and had just obtained their diving certification. They were just starting off on their diving experiences. All of them found it enjoyable to have the chance to go diving at Otter Springs. However, they were only certified for open water diving, not cave diving. Their instructor, Jackie, made an effort to talk them out of going on the dive. Why on earth would someone attempt cave diving with no prior experience, open water training, or equipment? Kenneth was really nervous for the dive and he was not going to let anything or anyone stop him from going underwater that afternoon. All of his pals tried to talk him out of going, but he just wouldn't. They all departed as a result, and without their instructor's permission, they started plunging into the 40-foot cave. In case Kenneth needed assistance there, others had gone after him. They only had a willing heart and some basic diving gear. They had no backup tanks or rescue line. Jackie gave them the go-ahead to halt and surface, but none of them did so. She got enraged by their defiance, but she was powerless to stop them. They had already dove into the sea, the 4 of them. Ron, Alan, Chris, and Kenneth kept plunging into Otter Springs' murky waters. They soon became lost in the caves due to reduced visibility brought on by the turbidity of the water. That incident was one that was anticipated from a dive excursion. Jackie also tried to avoid this, but they were unresponsive. They were not only lost in the sludge-filled cave, but also running out of air. Their oxygen gauge was now at 0. Kenneth had been separated from Alan and Chris in the cave. They too started to navigate, but to no avail. They both started breathing in tandem. They made the decision to go to the cave's summit when they realized they were running low on air. They were able to breathe here, and they remained in the ceiling crevice. Ron, though, was buried in the muck. He had more knowledge than the other 3 combined. He had an advantage over other people because of this, thus he could move through the mud. He turned on his purge valve, a piece of diving gear that allows you to drain water out of your breathing tube. Ron eventually managed to get to the surface. As soon as he reached the surface, he ran into Jackie, their instructor, who was furious and terrified about what might happen to them inside the cave. They were lost and had not yet managed to return to the surface. Ron inquired with the instructor because he had assumed he was the last to emerge, but much to his shock, he was informed that he was the first. Ron anticipated that something would go wrong. Ron had some experience, so he knew what obstacles he would have to overcome to escape the cave. What maneuvers might the novice divers use to get themselves to the surface? They could only be rescued. Jackie desired to enter the ocean, but that would be a foolish and risky course of action. There was no rescue line, she lacked a helmet light, and her air cylinder was empty. With all these restrictions, she was unable to conduct a successful rescue operation. Fortunately for them, Woody Jasper, a skilled cave diver, was present at the picnic area. Gainesville-based Continental Waters Vice President of Operations, Woody Jasper, had just returned from a company picnic there. An experienced cave diver named Bob Weeks attended the picnic as well. They were panicked at the surface, and as he got closer, he observed that they had 3 novice divers in the water with them. On the surface, he spoke with Ron and Jackie about whether those under had full diving equipment or were trained cave divers. But he received unfavorable responses. If something wasn't done straight away, he was aware that another tragedy was just around the corner. To get witty Jasper, he hurried to the picnic area. Bob briefed him on the situation at the cave site, saying that some divers were trapped there and urgent assistance was required. He hurried to his van, got his suit, and hurried to the water, telling those at the picnic to phone 911. The 40 gallons of pressurized air each of Ron, Alan, Chris, and Kenneth's tanks could hold, allowing them to stay in the cave for an hour. However, a diver would hyperventilate whenever he feels anxious. Hyperventilation, which happens as a result of anxiety or panic, is merely quick or deep breathing. He will undoubtedly breathe more deeply as a result of this. Jasper was aware that they needed to act swiftly. They had been frantically going up and down asking for assistance for an hour. They had been seeing bubbles inside the cave, but they had stopped. They were informed by this that those men drowned. Jack knew this. Jasper had documented this cave on one of his trips 10 years before to this tragedy. He was aware that there was an air pocket close by and a safety tunnel inside. He dove into the tunnel after entering the water. They were all lying on the ground with their tanks and masks on, he found. Alan, age 25, was promptly revived and extricated after being discovered on the ceiling. His 2 lungs had collapsed as he came to the surface. CPR was started on him by Kathy and those nearby. He started breathing after they removed the water from his system. Jasper had gone back underwater to look for the other 2 divers. Close to where he had discovered Alan, he came across Chris. He was revived by him as well using his purge valve. He was still acutely aware. As they emerged to the surface together, Jasper held his hands. At the surface, they began performing CPR on him as well. Jasper went back to the cave in search of Kenneth, the last man. He searched for an additional hour before discovering him at the bottom, around 24 meters from where he discovered his friends. The CPR and EMS team's efforts to revive him when Jasper got him to the surface were ineffective. Ken was pronounced deceased. Alan was transported to a hospital in Miami where his lungs were reinflated in a hyperbaric chamber. They at the hospital were concerned that he would have brain damage that was irreversible. Alan managed to survive the ordeal but vowed never to go cave diving again in his life. While Ron and Chris resumed their cave diving, they vowed never to dive without the right training. Jasper agreed that they could have avoided such a horrible experience if they had come to him for adequate cave diving instruction. Kenneth Ives, a 25-year-old Florida resident from Pinellas Park, he had previously served as an altar boy and an assistant manager at a Publix in Florida. What a tragic conclusion for a bright young man and his aspirations. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you saw, click the bell icon, like, and subscribe buttons to be notified when we post another thrilling cave diving story.